Before we begin the 2024 town meeting, a few housekeeping points to share with you. Let's welcome, first of all, for her first town meeting as town clerk, Melody Green. Melody? Okay. And also for her first town meeting, at the tender age of 5 months, Noelle Monroe. Tonight's meeting is going to be video recorded and will be posted on YouTube. Before we continue, we have a couple of slides to share with you this evening. And we have an organizational chart as far as the elected and appointed officials of our town. Sometimes it helps to have this presented in a format that we can more easily follow versus just written text. Next. So who we are. I've introduced myself. The other individuals who are up here, Ms. Green has also been introduced. We have our town administrator, Nathan Boudreau. We have our legal counsel, Carolyn Murray. We have the vice chair of the select board, Katie Young. We also have Chris Perigo, a member of the select board, Peter Walker, also a member of the select board, the aforementioned Noelle Monroe, and her mom, who has told me that she will make sure that Noelle does not vote illegally, Heather Monroe, a member of the select board. We have members of the finance committee, and we thank all of them for their effort throughout the year. And please greet your elected and appointed members of Hubbardston Town Government. Okay, we also have, anything else? No. No, okay. At this point, and again, before the meeting officially begins, the chair is going to invite Ms. Young to come forward for a special presentation.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for coming to town meeting. This year we have started a new, hopefully very well-received tradition in the town of Hubbardston. We are having our inaugural Hubbardston Citizen of the Year being presented tonight. This person that was nominated by a bunch of people and unanimously chosen by the select board. We want to recognize individuals that have made significant contributions and enhanced the Hubbardston's quality of life. There's a few people that usually rise to the occasion every single year that, do a lot for this town, and this person has definitely gone above and beyond their entire life to be the best representative for the face of Hubbardston. Not the only one, but definitely one of the top few I can name personally, and I would definitely personally recommend for this first year honor. So this person is a longtime resident and very active in a community role, has served on Memorial Day committees, Cultural Council, Vietnam Memorial Committee, has sponsored numerous town events like the Halloween Hoedown and a bunch of my special events every year. Let's see. It's internationally internationally known for his WW2 historian and businessman. He also preserved historic Hubbardston artifacts and displays for the community. His generous spirit of the... Are you like that? Don't... Sorry, I'm reading somebody else's stuff, so my bullet points. I like talking. So let's just talk. So this person does a lot for the community. I don't know how many people realize how much this person does, especially with World War II things, with DeLorean artifacts, with T-Rex and things like that. all kinds of fun items, but definitely I can't even begin to say how many times he has stepped up to the plate when something is needed in the town of Hubbardston. Not necessarily financially, but definitely financially. But he comes and he shows up and he does what is needed. He pitches in. He gives so much time to our community. I would love for everyone to give a massive round of applause to Mr. Shea. If you would please come up here.
I've been set up.
This is a proclamation for you to keep, and this is something that will go on the town hall. You are the first with your fancy name on this
Only took
plaque.
51 years in town.
But we would all unanimously, yes, Mr. Shea is definitely the
So,
man for you.
of all the pictures you have of me, you have me with dog food.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thinking the big just stole the show, though.
I was set up. My daughter said,
Okay. So congratulations again, Bill. Well done. We are fortunate to have you as one of our citizens. Okay, continuing as far as housekeeping for this evening, if you want to speak to a warrant, article, or motion, please raise your hand when recognized. Please come forward and step up to the microphone. This is the format that you use. Thank you, Mr. Moderator or Mr. Moderator. My name is, and here state your first and your last name. And please state that clearly for the record that the town clerk is creating. Then give your home address. So again, thank you, Mr. Moderator and Mr. Moderator. My name is and home address. You'll be invited to proceed. Don't ask direct questions. Address the chair, and then the question will be directed to the appropriate party. The counters for tonight's meeting will be Mark Kresge and Bella Caldera. Before beginning, it has to be noted that in 2 days, on June 6th, it will be the 80th anniversary of D-Day, Operation Overlord, the invasion of Nazi-occupied Europe by Allied forces on June 6, 1944. The targets were 5 beaches in Normandy, France. The beaches were given the code names of Utah and Omaha, assigned to the United States, Gold and Sword, assigned to the British, and Juno, assigned to Canadian forces. Over 150 Allied troops faced Hitler's Atlantic Wall. 3,933 are buried in the American Cemetery in Colville by the Sea in Normandy. By May 1945, the Nazis were defeated, but the first steps to victory took place 11 months earlier on the bloody beaches of Normandy. Thanks to the dedication and sacrifices of our servicemen and women from that conflict and others since, we have and will in a few minutes participate in that uniquely New England contribution to democracy, the annual town meeting, an exercise in self-government where free people debate and decide their future. The chair invites you at this time to please, gentlemen, uncover and to stand for a moment of silence in honor of American servicemen who died not only on that day, but through the end of World War II. They truly were and are the greatest generation. Please remain standing for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please be seated. At this point, the chair declares the 2024 annual town meeting in order, and we are going to be proceeding with the warrant. The chair has received a request from the interim superintendent of schools for the Quabbin Regional School District, Colleen Muha, and business manager Cheryl Duval to address the town meeting as needed. The chair has granted that request. Also has received a similar request from the superintendent, Thomas Brown, of Monty Tech, and the chair has granted that request as well. Okay, so now you all should have a copy of the warrant, and you can follow along. That's also going to be projected, correct? Okay, wonderful. So the chair is going to go over the first 4 articles. These articles are then, it will come up whether or not there is going to be a consent agenda or 4 separate votes. These are pro forma or regular articles to the warrant. And so the first article is to choose all necessary officers. The second, to hear the reports of the town officers and committees and act thereon. The third, see if the town will vote to authorize the Select Board to enter into agreements with the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Department of Transportation for the construction and maintenance of public highways for the 12-month period beginning July 1st, 2024. Take any other action relative thereto. Article 4, to see if the town will vote to accept educational grants and aids for fiscal year 2025 to be expended for authorized purposes by the Montechusett Regional Vocational Technical School and the Quabbin Regional School District, or take any action relative thereto. So, at this point, and Article 5, to see if the town will vote to authorize the continuation of the Holden Hospital account for fiscal year 2025 to be used for the purposes specified in the trust fund settlement, or take any other action relative thereto. So at this point, the chair is going to entertain a motion to place Articles 1 through 5 under a consent agenda. This requires a unanimous vote of town meeting. If passed, we will then vote on Articles 1 through 5 as a block under a single vote. If anyone objects to a single article being included in the consent agenda, we will remove that article from the consent agenda and vote on the remaining articles under the consent agenda. Does everyone understand what you're going to be voting on? Yes? Okay. So at this point, it's going to be, the chair is going to ask unanimous consent that we vote on those 5 articles under a consent agenda. Is there any objection? The chair hears none. So that is going to be unanimously approved, Madam Clerk. And now the second motion, the chair is going to entertain a motion that the town approve Articles 1 through 5 as printed in the warrant, and further authorize the department heads to address town meeting for information purposes. Chair recognizes Ms. Young to move the motion, seconded by Ms. Monroe. Is there any discussion on the motion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Cards. All in favor, please signify by raising your card. Thank you. You may lower your cards. Those opposed, please signify by raising your card. And the motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Article 6, to see if the town will vote to fix the maximum amount that may be spent during fiscal year 2025, beginning on July 1st of 2024, for the revolving funds established pursuant to Chapter 4, Section 6 of the Hubbardston General Bylaws for certain departments, boards, committees, agencies, or officers as follows, in accordance with Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 44, Section 53E and a half, or take any other action relative thereto. Okay, so motion is going to be to move that the town fix the fiscal year 2025, beginning on July 1st, 2024, spending limits for the revolving funds established under Chapter 4 of the Hubbardston General Bylaws in accordance with Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 44, Section 53 and a half, as printed in the warrant. So, motion made by Ms. Young, seconded by Ms. Monroe. Is there any discussion on the motion? This is Article 6. The chair hears none. All in favor, please signify by raising your cards. Thank you. You may lower them. Those opposed, please signify by raising your card. And the article passes unanimously. Thank you. Article 7. Article 7. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate from taxation, transfer from available funds, or otherwise provide the following sums of money to meet the salaries and compensation of town employees and town officers as provided by Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 41, Section 108, expenses and outlays of the town departments and other sundry and miscellaneous but regular expenditures. We continue with the explanation there. The motion, and this is submitted and recommended by the Select Board, and the Finance Committee recommends as well. I move that the town raise and appropriate from taxation and transfer from available free cash funds the sum of $4,358,745 to meet the salaries and compensation of town employees, town officers, as provided by Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 41, Section 108, expenses and outlays of the town departments and other sundry and miscellaneous but regular expenditures necessary for the operation of the town for fiscal year 2025. That is July 1st of 2024 through June 30th of 2025, as printed in the attached Appendix A, but not including funding for the Montechusett Regional Vocational Technical School District assessment or the Quabbin Regional School District budget and debt, and further to accept and expend federal and state funds to offset certain salaries or expenses and outlay. And Article 7 is submitted and recommended by the Select Board and also recommended by the Finance Committee. Motion made by Mrs. Monroe, seconded by Mr. Walker, to pass Article 7. Is there any discussion on Article 7? Chair hears none. All in favor of Article 7, please signify by raising your card. Thank you. You may lower them. Those opposed signify by raising your card. And the article passes unanimously. Article 8, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate or transfer from available funds the sum of $357,138 for the Montechusett Regional Vocational Technical School District assessment for fiscal year 2025, or to take any other action relative thereto, submitted by the Montechusett Regional Vocational Technical School District, recommended by the Select Board, recommended by the Finance Committee. So, the motion is, I move that the town raise and appropriate the sum of $357,138 for the Montechusett Regional Vocational Technical School District assessment for fiscal year 2025. Motion by Mr. Prega, thank you, and seconded by Ms. Young. Any discussion on the motion? This is Article 8. All in favor, please signify by raising your card. Thank you. Please lower them. Those opposed signify by raising your card. And Article 8 passes unanimously. Article 9, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate or transfer from available funds the sum of $6,370,641 to pay its share of the Quabbin Regional School District budget for fiscal year 2025, or take any action relative thereto, submitted by the Quabbin Regional School District, recommended by the Select Board, and also by the Finance Committee. Yes, sir.
First and foremost, thank you to both school administrations for attending this evening. It has been a pleasure to work with you this year. Due to a Scribner's error during the revisions in the budget, I ask that that number be changed to, as you can see on the screen, $6,370,774. It is $133 off, and it matters when the school is doing their paperwork, so I ask that that be changed due to a Scribner's error to $6,370,774. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Boudreau. And duly noted, without objection. Thank you. Again, discussion on Article 8. I'm sorry, discussion on Article 9. Any discussion on Article 9? Mr. Boudreau.
I'd just like to point out, many of you were here last year, and I was a newbie, very, very new, about 4 months in, a little heated under the collar with the school budget. This year has been significantly better. It has been an open and transparent situation since the arrival of Superintendent Muha. However, it is duly noted in your documents that these types of increases are not sustainable. The town of Hubbardston is aware that we as a community are growing at a significantly higher pace than the other communities in the Quabbin Regional School District, but that does not mean we can just take all of these increases on the back. This year we had to revert to utilizing one-time funds and cutting several of the services that we drastically need. We need more roads and more public safety and more services, not less. So while this year was a significantly better experience and the numbers are understood from a town administration standpoint, it must be duly noted that this is not sustainable and it hasn't been sustainable for some time. The school district is our partners, and we understand that, but something truly has to give, and I hope that as the residents of this fine town, you understand that. But once again, thank you to both school districts for their participation in this year's town meeting and our budget cycle, and I hope to work as wonderfully with you in the coming years. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Boudreau. Any further discussion? Yes, ma'am.
Rosemary Southwick, 20 Williams Hill Road.
Also?
I've been here a long time.
Okay. That's fine.
Mr. Chair?
Moderator.
Correct. Moderator. All right. It's going to take a long time to change that. Sorry.
No problem.
I just reflected on 3 graduations that I've been through in the past over 50 years. 1980, they had 120 graduates. 14 years later, it was in 1994 with 15 graduates. And just this year, 20 years later, there's 120 graduates from Quabbin. They say there's increase in children. In 50 years, it hasn't been that many children. Increase in the superintendent's office in 50 years has a higher growth than it does in the kids that we graduate every year. So I don't see where all this money is being used Maybe the state only looks at the children going to school and makes sure the programs are appropriate, but financially, I don't know, I'm not a great mathematician, but our kids haven't been increased by any chance. So how does Quabbin, I guess my question would be, how did they figure out they need all this money when we're all hurting, everybody's hurting, and this town has done a great job itself in trying to budget it, but I don't see any reason to give them this money.
Thank you very much. Superintendent Muha?
Mr. Moderator, Colleen Muha, Superintendent, Quabbin Regional School District, Interim Superintendent. I'm just about to finish my first year. So the question is around student counts. So to be clear, do you mind if I turn this way?
You can.
Okay. Feels a little weird to have you all behind me, so I apologize. Thank you. So Hubbardston student enrollment has gone up by 20 students. Our enrollment across the district is declining year after year. So I just want to point that out. And the way we figure what each town is responsible for is a method called apportionment. So we look at your student numbers, we look at the numbers in our other towns. And so this year what happened was Hubbardston's student number went up, and all of our other town numbers, their student enrollment decreased. So that is how we factor the apportionment. It is not an overall increase of students in the district.
Ma'am? And again, don't direct the comment at her, direct it at the chair. This way it doesn't turn into a debate, please.
Okay, all right. My point was not that we increased and other towns decreased. My point is, where is the money that fattens $500,000 more this year when you're graduating the same amount of kids in 50 years? You haven't increased by 5, maybe 15 kids per year. It hasn't increased. I've gone to 3 graduations in 50 years, and the highest is 120. So I think the fat is in your office, is where we're paying too much money out. And I'd like to see that looked at more, because you're increasing money. It sounds like Washington, D.C. They increase their salaries and everything else, but you're not producing more children. You're telling us we have 20 more and the others have less. Well, on a balance scale, that kind of evens out. But we have to pay you more. For what? I just want to know what we're paying for. Not per child, not the teacher's salary, not the increase in oil, heat, and that. I want to know what your office is increased by.
Yeah, thank you. Madam Superintendent.
Thank you. So I can address that. So I know you don't want to hear the overall picture, but I will start with our office. So in my office, we're decreasing by 2 positions this year. So we have made reductions across the district of 15.4 staff across our district. So this budget, this season, hopefully your selectmen have, we've tried to communicate with them the changes that we've made. We do have, and I understand what you're saying, we're all facing increases, right? Our groceries are more at home, our transportation is more, so I don't want you to think the school does not understand that. We do understand that. There are things about being in a regional district that are really challenging, and some of those are, it's not simple to, when you look at our student numbers, if all of our students were in one building, we could have greater efficiencies. But because we're spread out across the district, those efficiencies are harder to find. We do have increases in the costs. Our transportation costs went up 18%. And on top of that, just like your town is feeling, we also are not being fully funded by the state. So it is a combination of all of those things. I really do invite you to come to our process. We start our budget process in December. We come to town meetings, we share with Hubbardston. We invite all of you to attend. It is complex, and I don't want to dismiss that it is getting harder and harder. We understand that too, but we really have tried to take a good hard look at what we're doing and where we could cut and reduce and make efficiencies.
Thank you. Sir.
Lou Gagney, 1 Worcester Road. You walked into a crap storm, so, you know, you only been here a year. But I believe it's about 1.5, maybe $1.6 million increase if this passed in the past 4 years. 4 years. Over $1.5 million if that passed. Okay? That's insane. Same number of kids. But the increase in the amount of money that is going into the school is insane. You sounded like a politician up here. I mean, you did. You're good at it. But this can't happen. And yeah, you get money from this, that, the other thing. The town's going to go broke, and that's all there is to it. Okay, just kicking the can down the road by stealing money and cutting stuff from the town. And I've been here almost 7 years, and I don't see anything good that's going to come from the school completely pillaging this town. And this is insane. This is the most I've seen in an increase. And yeah, sorry, but COVID, made stuff go up and all this, and it was a good excuse. You said you got rid of 17.1 people? How many did you hire back in, when COVID was going on? So did you hire, 50 new people, but you're getting rid of 17, so it's still a net increase of, 30-something people? I mean, it's all disguised. You make it look good by saying you're getting rid of things, but you need to make some serious cuts. The upper echelon of the school department, superintendent, teachers unions, they all need to start going to the state and saying, we need more money for the rural communities, in all of the rural communities, not just this one, because the state seems to want to give out billions of dollars, to people that aren't even citizens of the U.S., but they don't want to give enough money to our schools, so that the burden falls upon us town folk, which is pathetic. We all pay plenty of taxes in this state. If you own a home in this state, you pay roughly 50 to 54% of your money goes to taxes, federal and state. So they're getting enough money from all of us, and then we got to pay them even more? Like, it's insane. So.
Thank you, Mr. Gagnon. For the record, I believe Superintendent Muha had mentioned 15.4 full-time equivalents. Okay? Thank you. Yes, ma'am. So again, Mr. Moderator, thank you, Mr. Moderator. Your choice, your first, your last name, your address. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Alora Overstreet, 111 Hale Road. My question is to the school. I realize that things are difficult, and none of us are here to make it more difficult. My question is, a lot of us are now working 2 jobs, and we don't have the time to attend the school meetings. Why is it not possible to include a transparency of their expenditures in our warrant when we are voting for their budget, so that we can see exactly what is being spent and we don't have to vent, we can look it over, see what's reasonable, but also within that parameter, maybe mark what is state-mandated positions, because I've heard a lot of things are mandated, not necessarily utilized. So it would be nice to have a bigger audience to be able to look over their accounting so that we can take it all in at our leisure in between whatever else we're doing to survive, and then make an educated vote without a huge amount of venting, if that's possible.
Okay. Thank you. Sir.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Patrick Kilray, 22 New Templeton Road.
Thank you.
To the school folks, what is the per cost per pupil? Because if we've gone up 20, we'd like to know what that per cost is.
Okay. Madam Superintendent or the business manager?
Mr. Moderator, Colleen Muha, Superintendent of Schools. So first, as far as transparency and where you can find all of our presentations, so throughout the process, we've had 4 different iterations of our budget, because as the House and Senate release their numbers, we make changes to our budget. All of our budgets and our slide decks can be found on our website from beginning to end. They are there all the time. I am happy to send them or share them with the town. If the town wants to put them on the website, that's something we could definitely talk about. As far as your cost per pupil spending, it's $11,562.20. And then I think the last thing I just feel like I want to respond to was you were asking about the increases, over the years, which I appreciate. And I also want to tell you that the state has different mandates on a school district than they had previously. So we used to have more support from social services. Now we are required at the school level to provide more support to our students. So we do have different categories of workers than we've ever had before. We have social workers, we have behavioral specialists. So that is where some of the change has come in, and it's all around sort of state mandates for schools. Thank you.
Anyone else? I'm sorry, yes, sir. Excuse me, let me just ask, anyone else for the first time? Go ahead, sir.
Thank you. Patrick Kilray, 22 New Templeton Road. So I did the math. It's about half of what you're asking for. So where's the other half? That's basically what we're looking for. We don't want to gyp this kids, but $225,000 is not $550,000. Please try to explain that to us.
Okay. Thank you.
We went up 20 students, you said. At $11,250 per student, that's $225,000. That number is $550,000. I just want to know where the other half is. All of us.
Thank you, Mr. Kilray.
While we're in transition and the school looks for the answers, I just want to let you know that there is a whole budget transparency center on our website where I do link to the Quabbin School District budget page, and we have posted it in several different places. We have ensured transparency throughout this whole process. There have been different reports that outline the breakdown of cost per student and the ratios that go to different parts per state data, and I actually really enjoy that part of my job, so check that out. It's always on our town website. There is a great amount of transparency and budgeting information on the page. I hope you all take a moment over the next couple of years and take a minute to learn. Thank you.
Thank you. Superintendent Muha.
Thank you. Full transparency, first year, so bear with me when I explain this. But the number is not just based on per pupil expenditure. There's a required local minimum contribution that the state assigns to each town. And so the base, your base for that required local contribution went up 7.52%. So that is also an increase factor in this budget.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Gagnon?
Lou Gagney, 1 Worcester Road. I'm curious, so if you had to hire social workers and all this because it's a state mandate, wouldn't the state then fund that and not pass the buck on to all of us? I mean, if they're going to mandate something, and is it a mandate enforceable? Because COVID mandates weren't enforceable. The word mandate, I don't believe, is actually enforceable. So do you actually have to have them? Then the state should be paying for them, and you should demand that the state pay for them. And unless people start stand up for themselves and do something, up in the higher echelon, nothing's going to change. And it's going to be the same thing every year, and it's only going to get worse. And when we don't have, but an overnight fire or a police officer because we can't afford it, and, something happens and people start dying, we know where it all came from. I mean, it's the truth.
Thank you, Mr. Gagnon. Any further discussion? Any further discussion? The chair sees none. All in favor of Article 9? I'm sorry? Oh, please. Oh, we don't have the motion. Sorry about that. Article 9, I move that the town raise and appropriate $6,370,774 to pay the town of Hubbardston's share of the Quabbin Regional School District budget for fiscal year 2025. Sorry about that as far as the motion. Okay, the chair is going to recognize Mr. Walker and seconded by Ms. Monroe. Thank you. Any further discussion on Article 9? Any further discussion? Chair hears none. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Josh Wilburn, 9 High Street.
Last name again?
Wilburn. Yes, with an N at the end.
Okay. Thank you. And the address?
9 High Street.
9 High Street. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. I've only been here a couple years, so a lot of this is new to me. I'm just wondering, obviously, if we can't afford it, eventually the school is going to have to take the cut. What are the ramifications for that other than the obvious ones? And I guess all the kids that go to this school go to a different school. I'm sure you guys have talked about that. I just wasn't here. Thank you.
Thank you. You want to go over that? Yeah. Okay. Mr. Administrator.
There are a number of serious ramifications that would happen if we were to say, oh, you know what? No, we're not going to pay that assessment. The state would get involved very, 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 very quickly, and it would be, we would open up all the books on both sides. It would be a whole nightmare. I do not believe shutting down a school system would be an immediate response to that type of vote, but it would not be pretty, and it would cost a lot of money on both the side of the town in legal expenses, in accounting expenses, and all over the place. Possibly the superintendent knows more about what the kind of defense structure for non-payment of assessment is, but I just know it would not be fun to deal with as a town administrator.
All set? Okay. Yes, ma'am. Of course, yes. Please, thank you.
Susan Rain, you can hear me. Susan Rain, I'm chair of the Finance Committee. Further to that, to the point raised by Mr. Wilbur, perhaps it's not clear, but let me say this now. We are, as members of the Quabbin Regional School District, we are one of 5 towns under a regional agreement. Each town is presented with their assessment under the QRSD budget to approve. You can see in the warrant what everyone else's assessments increased by. And I think the lowest is less than 1%, and we win the prize with the highest assessment. The way this works is that, as I mentioned, each town votes on it. But if Hubbardston votes no, and the other 4 towns vote yes, our no vote doesn't count. And we are obligated to pay under the terms of the regional agreement. If you take a look at the numbers that everybody else has, they're in terms of their increases, they're pretty favorable. It's more likely than not that the other towns are going to vote yes. So you can vote no if you want to, but it isn't going to matter. Now, the regional agreement, well, yeah, but here's your chance. The regional agreement, I believe, is up for renegotiation this year. And so if anybody here is interested in helping, and if anybody here would like to be on the Finance Committee and help us, here is your big chance to put your money where your mouth is.
Thank you, Ms. Rain. Next calendar year and next fiscal year. And the chair has just been informed that that is going to take place next calendar year, okay, as far as the renegotiation. Again, any further discussion? For the first time, sir, if you can please come forward.
Mr. Moderator, thank you. I'm Gael Mancour, 20 Main. So I have a quick question, right? I think there is a good point here. There's 2 things that I think I would like to add in here for some value. If we're going to come here to discuss a budget, we need to come prepared to discuss it. Which again, I know the school did a good job. If you do your research, you would know, like you said, it is on the website. You can see all the information to actually know. But my concern is obviously you're going to find people that may not know or not have the time to look at all the informations, and therefore they're going to have questions. So therefore the school should always come prepared to discuss those. The second thing is this is not going to stop. It's going to increase year over year. It's not going to change. We all know this. This is actually our nature here. But the concern here, I think there's a lot of people, obviously, if you don't have kids in the school system, who cares? And I think there's 2 mischaracterizations that actually occurs during the school budget. First, we start doing the math per student, but not necessarily the value they're getting from the school system. I'm moving this down for the school system. So therefore, there are some good aspects of the school that we cannot measure per se, but however, if you actually go to the school, participate into a sport event, you will see that the school is doing an excellent job for our kids. We are competing very well, generally speaking, in the entire district compared to other schools. So the point is here, we cannot shortchange our kids. We also cannot shortchange our town, our safety, and so forth. It is a balancing act. We have to continue to actually do it. The second thing is, I think, sir, you mentioned something very important, right? We need to actually raise our concern to the state and so forth, but I think the question always being pushed to the school to do it, but it is our kids. We need to do it as a community. If we need to stand up and ask questions, email our officials in the State House, we as parents and the school and the teachers together should be doing. We shouldn't be pushing it to the school only to figure it out, because this is our community, this is our school, this is our students. That's all I want to say today.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Boudreau.
On that point, I was actually very proud of this community. Right before Christmas, we did have both our state senator and our state representative come down for a priority session. It was well attended, the room was full, but with your sentiment, sir, we can always do more. The select board, through me, does submit a list of legislative priorities every year. Tippity top is this problem right here. It is this problem, and hey, how do we get paid more for water? And every year, those two problems. The bottom of the list may change. Right now, we need a boiler, but the top of the list is the same problems every time. And it is well stated to our legislators. But by all means, please reach out to them any and all the time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Boudreau. Okay, at this point, let's proceed as far as the vote. All in favor of Article 9, please signify by raising your card. Thank you. You may lower them. Those opposed to Article 9, please signify by raising your card. Majority. And thank you, and Article 9 passes. Article 10, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate or transfer from available funds the sum of $56,319 to pay its share of the Quabbin Regional School debt for fiscal year 2025 or take any action relative thereto, submitted by the Quabbin Regional School District, recommended by the Select Board, recommended by the Finance Committee. The motion is, I move that the town raise and appropriate $56,318 to pay its share of the Quabbin Regional School debt for fiscal year 2024 or 5? That should be 25. Okay. So please correct on the warrant, that is a debt for fiscal year 2025. Motion made by Ms. Young, seconded by Mr. Perigo. Thank you. And at this point, is there any discussion as far as Article 10? Any discussion as far as Article 10? Chair hears none. All in favor of Article 10, please signify by raising your card. Thank you. You may lower them. Those opposed, please signify by raising your card. Okay. And we have 1, 2, 3, 4. We have 4 opposed. Thank you. And Article 10 passes. Okay. Article 11, to see if the town will vote to appropriate the sum of $30,000 for salaries, benefits, committee stipends, and other operating expenses for the Hubbardston Cable Advisory Committee for fiscal year 2025, and to meet said appropriation, that the sum of $30,000 be transferred from the PEG Access and Cable Related Fund or take any other action relative thereto. Submitted and recommended by the Select Board and by the Finance Committee. The motion, I move to adopt Article 11 as printed in the warrant. Motion by Mrs. Monroe, seconded by, is there a second? Mr. Walker, thank you. Is there any discussion on Article 11? Sir.
Paul Sweeney, 40 Williamsville Road. Mr. Moderator.
Sir.
Sir. What are the stipends in salaries for the people that are on the committee.
Thank you. Mr. Boudreau.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Mr. Sweeney, that is a good question. So this town has a wonderful vendor who works to put out a good amount of programming of all of our public meetings and other ongoings in town. This is not a tax. This is a amount of money that comes from the back of your Spectrum bill. There is a percentage. I'd have to go and look at what it is, and then that money comes back to the town. It pays for the lovely people operating the cameras. It pays for the young lady that comes and runs the moving head camera at your meetings, at the public meetings in the Slade conference room. It pays for a wide variety of transparency options. I know that's a buzzword and it gets thrown around a lot, and I try to stay away from buzzwords as well, but it allows us to put out the public information as well as we do. It is $30,000 well spent.
Looking for the committee members themselves. They do not.
The committee members do not get a stipend.
Okay, because that's kind of deceiving when it says stipends. We lost all the stipends on the other committees.
Yeah, no, there's no, sir, there's no stipend for committee.
Thank you, sir. Any further discussion? Any further discussion? All in favor, please signify by raising your card. Thank you. Those opposed signify by raising your card. And Article 11 passes unanimously. Article 12. One quick housekeeping thing. Would you mind just checking to see what the number is now, and we'll put it in now, okay? Thank you. Article 12, to see if the town will vote to transfer the sum of $271,235 from free cash to pay for the following fiscal year 2025 cash capital expenses, including all costs incidental and related thereto, or take any other action relative thereto. And you will see that the chart lists the various departments and the purchases and the amount for those respective purchases. Submitted and recommended by the Select Board, recommended by the Capital Improvement Committee, and also by the Finance Committee. The motion, I move that the town transfer $271,235 from free cash to pay for the fiscal year 2025 capital expenses, including all costs incidental and related thereto as delineated in Article 12 of the warrant. So that is the motion. Motion made by Mr. Perigo, seconded by Ms. Young. Thank you.
115.
And for the record, the chair is pleased to inform you that the current attendance is 115 registered voters. So thank you for coming out. Thank you for participating. Is there any discussion as far as Article 12? Sir, Mr. Gagné.
Lou Gagné, 1 Worcester Road. 115 out of, I think, 3,300 plus is pathetic, just stating that fact. Awesome that we have 115. I'm curious, town clerk, $10,000 for vault organization.
Excuse me, remember, Mr. Gagné, you're not directing it at anyone?
It says town clerk,
Go
department,
ahead.
vault organization and management, $10,000. Are we like hiring somebody to do organization, or?
Okay, Mr. Boudreau.
Mr. Gagné, thank you for your question. This was a project that I and the former town clerk actually ended up finding and proposing. So this is a company, they're a sole proprietor in this area in doing government organization. They're going to come in, clean out the vault, put up new shelving systems, put in new boxes, database it all so that we can take steps forward. I welcome you to come on down. You can take a look in the vault. It's crazy. Like, no, it is a company that's coming, that's actually quite the deal. I wheeled and dealed them down about $5,000. So,
Okay.
no, we are at this time, we are not digitalizing it. The town clerk's office is one of the last offices that will be allowed to be digitalized just because of the historical and vital nature of the paperwork. But this is organizing, getting rid of what we do not need to keep in there and indexing. So it's well worth it.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Chair, I'm sorry, yes.
Hi, I'm Bella Caldera, 12 Simon Hill Road, and I note that the police cruiser cycle, is the police getting a motorcycle?
Thank you, Mr. Boudreau.
As much as I would like to believe Chief Kuchar would love a motorcycle, the police cruiser cycle is a every 2-year purchase of a police cruiser that we've been following for the last couple years. This whole capital improvement plan, which is a program that we start in the early fall and go all the way through the winter with, is a wonderful program, and I love that we get to have a cycle. But we do have to keep our eye on other funding, or this money will no longer be available for what we enjoy using it for and intend to use it for, which is keeping up our facilities, our capital projects, our vehicles. If it continues to be allocated elsewhere, there will be no more capital funds. So, but as we stand here today, it is a proposed every 2-year cycle to purchase another police cruiser. Maybe we can talk about a motorcycle in a few years. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Chair hears none. All in favor, please signify by raising your card. Thank you. Those opposed, please signify by raising your card. And Article 12 passes unanimously. Article 13. To see if the town will vote to transfer and appropriate the sum of $15,000 from free cash to fund an overnight on-call stipend program for the Hubbardston Fire Department's ambulance service, or take any other action in relation thereto. Submitted and recommended by the Select Board and also recommended by the Finance Committee. The motion, I move that the town transfer and appropriate the sum of $15,000 from free cash to fund an overnight on-call stipend program for the Hubbardston Fire Department's ambulance service. Motion made by Mr. Walker, seconded by Ms. Monroe. Thank you. Any discussion as far as Article 14? Oh, sorry, 13. Article 13. Sorry about that. Okay, the chair hears none. All in favor, please signify by raising your card. Thank you. You may lower them. Those opposed, please signify by raising your card. And Article 13 passes unanimously. Article 14, to see if the town will vote to transfer the sum of $50,000 from free cash to the general stabilization account or take any other action relative thereto, submitted and recommended by the Select Board. The Finance Committee also recommends. The motion, I move that the town transfer the sum of $50,000 from free cash to the general stabilization account or take any other action relative thereto. And this particular vote requires a 2/3 majority. Motion made by Ms. Young, seconded by Mr. Perigo. Okay, is there, all set? Oh, it's just a majority, I'm sorry. That is a typo, this is a majority vote only. Sorry about that. Thank you, legal counsel. Is there any discussion on Article 14? Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Rebecca Lloyd, 155 Williamsville Road. Could I just ask for clarification on what this is about?
Absolutely. Go ahead, Mr. Boudreau. Thank you, ma'am.
General stabilization is your rainy day account. Our financial policies call that we have 5% of the year's operating budget in that account. Right now, there is, if this $50,000 were to go through, it would be $618,697, which is 5.55% of next year's forecasted operating budget. This is essentially your funding for a rainy day. The clouds are forming, I can let you know that, and the rain is coming, but this is money that we put away in savings for a issue in the future. Let me ask Leila one question. To get the money out, you actually need 2/3 majority. So it's a safer kept location than to keep it in, say, free cash, which is a simple majority. But long and short, it's a rainy day savings account. And capital stabilization is a similar account for capital items.
Thank you. Did that answer your question, ma'am?
Yes.
Okay. Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Chair hears none. All in favor of Article 14, please signify by raising your card. Thank you. You may lower them. Those opposed, please signify by raising your card. And Article 14 passes unanimously. Article 15, to see if the town will vote to appropriate $65,000 from the capital stabilization account to complete the funding for the purchase of a new boiler at Hubbardston Center School or take any other action relative thereto. This is submitted and recommended by the Select Board. The Finance Committee has also recommended it. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I would just like to kind of preemptively bring something up with this one. I had received word the other day that Senator Durant was able to get $66,000 for us in the state Senate budget as an earmark. So I request that town meeting do approve this, but I'm going to go with when and if the $66,000 does come through, we will not touch this. We will keep it where it is because it will have come from an earmark. Same money. Thank you.
Good news. Good news. Any further discussion for, I need a motion on Article 15, made by Mrs. Monroe and seconded by Mr. Walker. Okay. Any discussion on Article 15? Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Moderator, Barbara Carpenter, 229 Gardner Road.
Yes, ma'am.
If we vote this in tonight, will the state look at it that we approved this and then not approve the $66,000?
Good question. Thank you. Mr. Boudreau?
I would hope not. But I don't see that happening as the budget is now entering conference committee, but nothing is out of the realm of possibility, but I can't imagine that the big head honchos in the state legislature are watching what's going on at our town meeting, but I can't also...
You never know.
You never know.
You never know.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry. Yes, ma'am. Would you be able to repeat your last name, please? Carpenter. Thank you. Oh, we're not making that notation. Thank you. Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Your niece is trying to lobby for you. Okay. All in favor, please signify by raising your cards. Thank you. Please lower them. Those opposed, please signify by raising your card. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 opposed. Thank you. And Article 15 passes. Thank you. Article 16, to see if the town will vote to authorize the Select Board to enter into a lease agreement with Pitney Bowes for a mail machine for a term not to exceed 5 years, or take any other action relative thereto. So this is essentially a postal meter, right?
Yes.
In non-sexist language. Okay, and let me see, submitted and recommended by the Select Board. The Finance Committee has recommended this. The motion is, I move that the town authorize the Select Board to enter into a lease agreement with Pitney Bowes for a mail machine for a term not to exceed 5 years. Does the chair hear a motion? Motion made? Sir.
16
That's
boiler.
Article 16, sir.
Is the boiler.
No.
16. Okay.
Is it free?
Okay, so motion made by Mr. Perigon. Thank you. Seconded by Ms. Young. Any discussion as far as Article 16? Yes, Mr. Boudreau.
Sir, if you brought an old version, when we got the updated version of the school budget, there was originally a article in there that moved $25,000 into capital as well, which I had to propose taking off of the warrant when we went from, because the school gives us varying amounts, and it started at about 15%, which is why I have this spot on top of my head. But then it went down to 12.98 and then to 9.46. We work with them through the whole process, but we did have to make some moves, which is why there is a little bit of a reorganization in the final version of the warrant. Thank you.
Any further discussion on Article 16? Chair hears none. All in favor, please signify by raising your card. Thank you. Please lower them. Those opposed, please signify by raising your card. And Article 16 passes unanimously. Article 17. Article 17, to see if the town will vote to appropriate and transfer $10,000 from the accrued Community Preservation Act Open Space Reserve account to fund a portion of the required town matching contribution toward an $85,000 state Mass Trails grant for a fully accessible trail to the Dottie Rock Scenic Vista at Malone Conservation Area, thereby rehabilitating land for recreational use. Submitted and recommended by the Community Preservation Committee. The Select Board recommends, the Finance Committee recommends. The motion, I move that the town appropriate and transfer $10,000 from the accrued Community Preservation Act Open Space Reserve account to fund a portion of the required town matching contribution toward an $85,000 state Mass Trails grant for a fully accessible trail to the Dottie Rock Scenic Vista at Malone Conservation Area. Is there a motion? Mr. Walker moves. Is there a second? Seconded by Ms. Monroe. Thank you. Under discussion, anyone care to discuss Article 17? Yes. Please.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
Sure.
Bella Caldera, Simon Hill Road. And I just want to say that if you haven't been to see the scenic vista from Dottie's Rock, I recommend you get there and see it, because it is one of the most special places in our town. I've painted pictures of that vista more than once. And no, the trail is not handicapped accessible. So I think this is a good deal and we should go for it, because Dottie's Rock. I carved the inscription on the boulder at the entrance to the trail. So it's an important place to me.
Excellent. Thank you. Any further discussion? Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Mark Kresge, 58 New Templeton. Well, I can't add anything to Bella's comment on the beauty of the area, but I'll give a little bit of additional background on the financial, how this all came about. Basically, this year, a perfect storm of funding options became available, including $7,500 that the Select Board was able to make available from ARPA funding, the 10,000 article that's in front of you now, and a favorable level of funding was committed by the state to the Mass Trails Grant Program. So we've been able to leverage our limited funds into a compelling matching grant application that requests the additional $85,000 from the state to finally complete this trail. So we should not miss this opportunity to make the town's beautiful natural resources accessible to all. So I encourage you to vote for this article.
Thank you, Mr. Kresge. Any further discussion? Any further discussion on Article 17? Chair hears none. All in favor, please signify by raising your card. Thank you. Please lower them. Those opposed, please signify by raising your card. Article 17 passes unanimously. Article 18, to see if the town will vote to appropriate and transfer $31,260 from accrued Community Preservation Act undesignated reserve account to fund the fiscal year 2025 debt service obligation for the Rainbow's End Playground Improvement Project as previously approved under Article 18 of the June 23, 2020 annual town meeting, or take any other action relative thereto. Submitted and recommended by the Community Preservation Committee, the Select Board recommends, the Finance Committee recommends. The motion: I move that the town appropriate the sum of $31,260 from the Community Preservation Fund undesignated reserves for the purpose of funding the FY 2025 annual debt service obligations for the Rainbow's End Playground Improvement Project as previously approved under Article 18 of the June 23, 2020 annual town meeting. Motion. A motion made by Ms. Young, seconded by Mrs. Monroe. Is there any discussion as far as Article 18? The chair sees none. All in favor, please signify by raising your card. Thank you. You may lower them. Those opposed, please signify by raising your card. And Article 18 passes unanimously. Article 19, to see if the town will vote to appropriate or reserve from the Community Preservation estimated fiscal year 2025 annual revenue the following amounts recommended by the Community Preservation Committee for committee administrative expenses to set aside from the Community Preservation Fund estimated fiscal year 2025 annual revenue for later spending for historic resources, community housing and open space, and reserve for any remaining fiscal year 2025 estimated annual revenues to the undesignated reserve so that the town has access to those funds for community preservation projects and other expenses in fiscal year 2025 for community preservation projects and other expenses in fiscal year 2025, with each item to be considered a separate appropriation or take any other relative thereto. And the appropriations are listed from fiscal year 2025 estimated revenue for community preservation administrative expense of $5,000, reserves from fiscal year 2025 estimated revenue for historic reserves $10,000, from fiscal year 2025 estimated revenue for community housing reserves $10,000, from fiscal year 2025 estimated revenue for open space reserves $10,000, from fiscal year 2025 estimated revenue for undesignated reserves $65,000. Submitted and recommended by the Community Preservation Committee, the Select Board recommends, and the Finance Committee recommends. The motion: I move that the town appropriate the sum of $5,000 from fiscal year 2025 estimated Community Preservation Fund revenue for committee administrative expenses and reserve from the fiscal year 2025 estimated Community Preservation Fund revenue for future appropriations the sum of $10,000 for historic resources, the sum of $10,000 for community housing, the sum of $10,000 for open space, and the sum of $65,000 for the undesignated reserve, with each item to be considered a separate appropriation. Is there a motion? Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry about that. I thought it was Noel. Mrs. Monroe moves. Is there a second? Mr. Walker seconds. Any discussion as far as Article 19? The chair hears none. All in favor, please signify by raising your card. Thank you. You may lower them. Those opposed signify by raising your card. And Article 19 passes unanimously. Article 20, Article 20, and these are under general bylaw articles to see if the town will vote to amend general bylaws Chapter 14, Community Preservation Committee, Section 1, by striking the language indicated as strike-through below and inserting the new language indicated as underlined below as follows. So if you take a look down, you're going to see that line 4 is stricken through and is replaced with the following language: one individual with relevant experience in housing matters to be appointed by the Select Board to represent the interests of housing. And I think that's the only one. Okay. All right. This, or take any other action relative thereto, submitted by the Community Preservation Committee, the Select Board recommends, the Finance Committee recommends. The motion: I move that the town amend the town's general bylaws as printed in Article 20 of the warrant, and this is a majority vote. And the chair will now entertain a motion. Motion made by Mr. Perigo, seconded by Ms. Young. Is there any discussion as far as Article 20? Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Moderator, Jocelyn Deneen, 23 Cruise Road. I'm just wondering if we might further define experience in housing matters, because it comes to mind that could be carpenter, real estate agent, a local authority. I just wonder what that means.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mr. Boudreau. Thank you, ma'am.
Any and all of that. It could mean something different depending on the person or time frame that we are working with. If they post it one time and they're looking and a realtor applies, that is experience in housing. If the Community Preservation Act recommends said person and the Select Board appoints them, housing experience, boom. You can say the same about assessing, you can say the same about maybe contracting. There are a variety, and I'd like to believe that it is wide and open like that intentionally, just to welcome a wide variety of experiences to the Community Preservation Act Committee. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Article 20. Any further discussion? Chair hears none. All in favor, please signify by raising your card. Thank you. You may lower them. Those opposed, please signify by raising your card. And Article 20 passes unanimously. Article 21, to see if zoning articles. Article 21, to see if the town will vote to amend the zoning bylaws by adding a new Article 23, battery energy storage systems, as follows. or take any other action related thereto. Just leave the correction. So as you are reading through this, the chair is going to bring to your attention one correction to this warrant article, and that is on page 14, number 5, and that is permitting requirements for Tier 2 and Tier 3 battery energy storage systems. Please go down 1, 2, 3 to the third line that begins with those zoning districts, and the correction goes in after the number 4, as in Article 4. There'll be a comma, and then sections 4.5, comma, 4.7, comma. Okay, so that is the correction as far as the warrant. So we have not a motion, so the chair is going to read the motion, and then we'll have the mover and the seconder of the motion, and then we will move on from there. So the motion is on page 21. I move that the town vote to amend the zoning bylaws by adding a new Article 23, battery energy storage systems, as printed in Article 21 of the warrant. And this does require a 2/3. Yes, okay. All right, so that is going to be the motion. The chair is going to entertain a motion. Mr. Walker moves, seconded by... Oh, I'm sorry, Ms. Monroe. Thank you. At this point, is there any discussion as far as Article 21? Yes, sir.
Good evening, Mr. Moderator, and if you would allow me to address the people here.
First, last name and address, please.
Francois Steiger,
That's okay.
member of the Planning Board at 65 Healdville Road. Thank you very much. I'm here representing the Planning Board, who is sponsoring this bylaw, and you may remember that actually 3 years ago, the town unanimously voted for a battery energy storage system, also known as BESS, B-E-S-S, the bylaw. And therefore, you may be wondering why we are at this again. Shortly after our town, back in 2021, voted to approve the BESS bylaw, court cases appeared in Massachusetts courts challenging these types of bylaws. And although our bylaw was well crafted, it was swept under the state's Attorney General challenges of best bylaws that were not approved for other communities. The bylaw in front of us today is one that is modeled by one that was actually approved by the state Attorney General, for a town in the Cape, and essentially includes the components that were part of the bylaw that we had back in 2021 as part of the Hubbardston Battery Energy Storage Bylaw. This bylaw here focuses on large-scale battery energy storage systems. We're not talking about battery energy storage system that you as individuals have potentially in your residence. Say, for example, the Tesla wall units or other forms of battery energy storage systems, say, for example, where you collect power from your solar arrays or so forth. Large-scale solar installations are allowed to install energy storage systems to help manage electricity loads that are aligned with their electricity use. And we have a good example here in town, where in Williamsville Road we have already one large-scale energy storage system that is a solar power plant, where they actually during the day store that energy in these batteries, and then release them typically around 4 or 5 o'clock, which is when people come back home, and the actual utilization of energy really increases dramatically. So instead of having to call for more expensive forms of energy at that point in time, they can actually rely on the battery energy storage that has been collected during the day. The bylaw ensures that BESS systems are located in areas that have suitable utility infrastructure and it is actually compatible with this technology. Again, we need to make sure that wherever these are installed, that the utility companies can access them and can access them in a safe manner. One thing we also have to remember, we are a community where about 50% almost of our town is watershed. And we just want to make sure that we're doing this here in a responsible manner. It also includes a review process that allows the town's board to review and provide inputs. So that means, therefore, that the planning board has the purview of being able to have special sessions where we can review this here and invite the public to participate in this here. With these revisions in place, the Hubbardston is positioned to contribute to our town's future's reliance on the electric infrastructure that increases resilience and provides higher reliability while offering controls in the cost of electricity. One thing to keep in mind here is that these battery energy storage systems, when utilized, typically provide the town where they are located with a higher reliance and ability to take advantage of that infrastructure, meaning that that electricity that becomes available, say for example there's larger power outages in other communities or other areas, they have lessening impact on our own community. So think of it as a matter of resilience. The state of Massachusetts is one that is not only very heavily focused in promoting this technology, but have done so in some communities without any kind of input from the community. And what this bylaw does is again, puts us in a position where we can, as part of the planning board and you as members of our community, to participate in the hearings that we have and potentially come back with questions and hopefully model a battery energy storage system that is appropriate for our town. And thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Any further discussion? Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Tim Hawley, 35 Mount Jefferson Road. There's a point of information. Is it permissible to have a motion to table an article?
It is. It is. It is.
Therefore, I move that we table this article for this evening and consider it a future time. I'll be happy to speak to that if anyone will second that motion.
The motion to table is non-debatable, so there will be no debate. However, it does require a second. Is there a second for the motion to table the article? Chair sees a second. All in favor of the motion to table, please signify by raising your cards. It's a motion to table to consider at a future special or annual town meeting. Correct?
Yes.
Yes, okay. So, again, the motion to table is not to act on it this evening, but in the future. The motion has been made and seconded. All in favor of the motion to table, please signify by raising your cards. Thank you. You may lower your cards. Those opposed to the motion to table, please raise your card. The majority having prevailed, the motion to table fails. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Moderator, if I may, I'm sorry to be bringing this up at such a late hour, but the beginning of this article lists 13 sections, but there are only about 11 sections. One of the missing ones is definitions. Is anyone able to offer information as to whether this is based on the National Fire Protection Association standard for the installation of stationary energy storage systems?
Let me check with, don't know.
Through you to Mr. Steiger.
Yes, Mr. Steiger.
I apologize, I didn't hear the question.
Please.
I did not have
Okay.
I'm sorry, the question was whether the intent was to follow the National Fire Protection Association standard for the installation of stationary energy storage systems.
And are you referring to a particular section here?
Article 21.
Yes, but is there a particular section in here that you think is not stating something that you are?
Okay. The National Fire Protection Association standard is 15 sections. It's 66 pages long. Buried somewhere in the text in the middle of it, it says that single and two-family homes and townhouses are only subject to Section 15 of those 15 sections. I note that item 4, permitting requirements for Tier 1, says that Tier 1 systems are allowed by right, but I'm not sure if that means they're exempt from these requirements. Okay. So I guess that's another question. If it's allowed as of right, does that mean that it's exempt from these regulations?
Okay, we will check with legal counsel. And
thank you, Mr. Moderator. Carolyn Murray, Town Council. If it is allowed as of right, it's not exempt from these regulations. It is also governed by these regulations, so it specifically says that Tier 1 is the only one of the 3 types that's actually a use allowed by right in all zoning districts.
Thank you. So that's a variance from the National Fire Protection Association standard in that single and two-family homes and townhouses are exempted from most of the requirements that we see here. So besides not having a definitions section that's listed in the section, it also says that it applies to lithium-ion with a capacity greater than 30 kilowatt hours. Mr. Moderator, do you know what the kilowatt-hour capacity of a Ford Lightning is? Pretty sure it's at least 60 or 70. So I'm curious if this regulation will apply to anyone purchasing an electric vehicle. So I think those are the only questions I have. I'm concerned that we have a few T's to cross and I's to dot before we vote on this. But I think the intent is good for protecting the watershed. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, go ahead.
If I may, and
those are
excellent.
Excuse me. Anyone else for the first time? Mr. Kresge.
Mark Kresge. I'd like to see if I can move for reconsideration on that motion for tabling.
Did you vote?
I voted against.
You voted against.
Tabling.
Thank you. So in order to consider a motion to reconsider, you have to vote on the prevailing side. In this case, if you voted no, you're on the prevailing side. So the chair is going to rule that, yes, you may move to reconsider the vote to table.
Okay. So I would like to so move. I do not see how we can pass a bylaw tonight that says it has definitions and does not have any definitions in it.
The reconsideration, Madam Town Council, is going to be limited in debate to just the basis for the reconsideration, and we're looking at majority though. Let me check. Looking at page 74, starting on 73. Reconsideration can only be voted on once, and the chair is looking at Chapter 2 of the bylaws, Section 8. And these are the town bylaws, and as far as the motion to reconsider, it's going to be limited to 15 minutes. No one may speak to the motion for more than 3 minutes at a time. And at this point, the chair is going to quote Section 13 of the bylaws. Unless otherwise provided by law or bylaws, all motions shall require a majority vote. So the chair is going to rule that the motion to reconsider is going to be decided by a majority. Okay? Does everyone understand where we're going with this? Okay? And I'm sorry. Was there a second to the motion? There was. Okay. Yes, there was. Okay? So at this point, Mr. Kresge has moved for reconsideration of the motion to table, and it has been duly seconded. So that's going to be the vote. The motion to reconsider is a time-sensitive motion according to town bylaws, and so it is limited to 15 minutes, and it is going to be, yes, 15 minutes, and we are going to, so it's been made and seconded. As soon as the chair recognizes someone, and you're just debating on the motion to reconsider, okay? That's the focus, so it's a narrow focus as far as the debate. So, is there anyone who wants to debate or discuss the motion to reconsider? Ma'am, please step forward. And as soon as you say, Mr. Moderator, the clock will begin.
Mr. Moderator, I am Jesse Alexander at 37 Lombard Road, and I agree with the motion to table this solely on the fact that we do not have Article 12 or 13, the financial surety or the annual reporting requirement information. And I'm also interested in knowing more information on the access roads as that applies to Tier 1 and the kilowatt hours for electric vehicles.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Anyone else want to discuss the motion to reconsider? Yes, ma'am. Mrs. Monroe and Noel.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Heather Monroe, 59 Grimes Road. I just wanted to take an opportunity to speak for a moment. So this is a bylaw that had, I think as Francois had stated, started a couple years ago. And I understand, you know, it's not complete this evening and there's pieces missing, and obviously we need to correct that. But I wanted to put two things on the record. The first is this is a very real concern for a lot of municipalities in Massachusetts, that if we don't have something in place, then folks can come in and kind of do anything. It's either we figure out what rules we want them to abide by, or there's no rules for them to abide by. So this is a very important thing to make sure that we have up and running and that we have in place. The reason it didn't get approved the last time is it got held up in the state level. A lot of other towns have had the same issue, and just trying to go back and get that taken care of is really important. The second thing I just wanted to bring up is I think we're very lucky, and my biases aside, based on who the chair is of the planning board, but I think we're very lucky to have a planning board that's so actively engaged and works very hard on these bylaws. There's a lot of communities that will send all of this out to regional planning agencies, and I just don't want the planning board to get discouraged with not having this bylaw passed tonight because of some administrative error pieces to it. And I want to make sure we all take a moment to appreciate how lucky we are to really have these elected officials in town, have them continue to show up, have them continue to put time in. For folks who have questions tonight, please, before the next one, watch the meetings for the planning board and see when their hearings are. They have to hold a public hearing on each of these bylaws before we can vote on them as a zoning bylaw. They put a lot of time, a lot of hours into them. They make changes and modifications to the bylaws after they go before them based on those pieces of feedback. And that's really the opportunity to opine and put the input into the zoning bylaws. If you're not sure when they are or what's coming up, if you reach out to Nate, I'm sure he'll happily coordinate all of those pieces. And for those of you who are here this evening from the planning board, thank you so much for all of your hard work. Current members, past members like Alice, I saw you. Just thank you everyone for continuing to do such a great job for the community and really try to protect us and make sure we have a say as things move forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Monroe. Anyone else to discuss the motion to reconsider? Yes, ma'am. And as she approaches, just to let you know, the chair is ruling based on town meeting time, which is the parliamentary authority that we use here in Hubbardston, which says that a motion to reconsider is decided by a majority vote. So that's the basis for the chair's ruling. Please.
Good evening, Mr. Moderator. I just want to clarify, is this bylaw to protect our backyards, to help us so that we don't have these massive batteries and these things coming into our beautiful forests and backyards and trails? Is this to protect us, or is this to allow the batteries to come in?
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, I'm sorry, ma'am, your name and address. Sorry about that. Thank you.
First time. Cynthia Fagundes, 148 New Westminster Road.
Thank you. Any further discussion as far as the motion to reconsider? The chair hears none. Go ahead.
Thank you. I think we've heard some very valid points today, and I just wanted to make sure that we have some components brought up. A list of definitions does exist and is implicit in the sense that what we have in here is a definition of what the Tier 1, Tier 2 battery energy storage systems are, and that's the level of definitions that was introduced here. In terms of the requirements from a reporting perspective, I believe they are included and are incorporated also in this bylaw, because we do have under Section 11 annual reporting requirements that have been introduced here. To answer the last individual who was here, yes, it is really to protect, and the protection really is that we are putting boundaries in terms of where these battery energy storage systems can exist within our community. At this point in time, as it was clearly stated by Ms. Monroe, the state of Massachusetts basically, by us not having a bylaw of any sort, basically would allow a company to come in here and put up a battery energy storage system pretty much in any location. What we're trying to do is we're trying to formulate a process where these battery energy storage systems are integrated into our community in a reasonable place, in reasonable places as designated by this bylaw. That's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any further discussion on the motion to reconsider? Yes, the motion to reconsider.
Susan Rain, Finance Committee, 10 Williamsville. I have a question for Town Council. With the administrative defects in the language of the bylaw, what is your sense of its enforceability?
Town Council.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I think where some of the confusion is coming in is that very first opening section.
Yeah.
That is sort of like a table of contents, if you will. And in the editing of the warrant and the more substantive provisions, I think things got moved around or things got deleted. With all due respect to putting a table of contents at the very beginning of the zoning bylaw, it has zero effect. It doesn't say anything, it doesn't do anything, it doesn't create any rights, it doesn't deprive anyone of any rights. So frankly, that whole section that purports to be a table of contents could be struck, and then this whole thing could still be salvaged, because the concerns that folks have raised tonight about the provisions that they don't see here. Financial surety is here in Section 10. Annual reporting is here in Section 11. Safety is under Section 8. I think all of the components of substance are in this bylaw such that they would be enforceable.
Okay, great. I have a second question. The gentleman in the blue shirt, who I don't remember your name, mentioned something about the fire code provisions?
Mr. Holmes.
Some provision?
Mr. Holmes. Excuse me.
National Fire Protection and language, and that this bylaw varies from that, correct?
Excuse me, Ms. Rain, through the chair, please.
I'm sorry. And the gentleman in the blue shirt mentioned that the fire code prevention or whatever it was. Anyway, there's a variance, and my question
It was
is
the National Fire Protection Association. Is that
okay.
correct?
Language, and my question in determining how to vote on the motion to reconsider is to ask why this bylaw varies from those provisions.
Okay. Again, it's on the motion. Thank you. It's on the motion to reconsider. Any further discussion on the motion to reconsider? The chair.
I wanted an answer to the question.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Again, as far as the debate goes, the debate is on the motion to reconsider. Ms. Rain, can you restate your question, please?
Yes, in determining how I'm going to vote on the motion to reconsider, I would like to understand why the proposed bylaw varies from the National Fire Protection Association language referred to by the previous gentleman.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Legal counsel? Turn to him as a...
I will do my best, Mr. Moderator. To just be clear, if you review this bylaw, and no pun intended, but sprinkled throughout various provisions of the bylaw, there are references to NFPA, the National Fire Prevention Association, and requirements that the applicant must also comply with. So, for example, one that just caught my eye, fencing requirements, they also have to comply with the NFPA 855 requirement for that. There are various provisions throughout that incorporate the NFPA, so I really can't answer as to any variance from the National Fire Protection Association.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Tim Hawley, 35 Mount Jefferson. Yes, exactly. The fact that the proposed bylaw does reference the NFPA standard in some respects is part of the reason for the concern, because the NFPA standard specifically exempts single and two-family homes and townhouses from the sections that you just referenced. The fencing, the Section 8, all that other stuff, they're explicitly exempted in the NFP regulation. I do not see them exempted here. Also, I did not see anywhere in the NFPA language the 30 and 70 kilowatt hour battery levels listed here, and I'm not even sure that the NFPA standard applies to these Tier 1 battery storage systems that are less than half a megawatt. I mean, if it's less than half a megawatt, it could be a 10 kilowatt. I mean, it could be very small. Anything less than a half a megawatt means anything smaller is Tier 1. So that means it includes everything down to 0. And that's not the way I read the NFPA standard. So this seems to be, I think it's just a simple oversight in terms of trying to cover all the bases. It's covering things that I don't think the NFPA intended to cover, and probably for good reason. So I don't think we should go there.
Thank you, sir. Okay, we are down to 2 minutes and 34 seconds. Any further debate on the motion to reconsider? Chair hears none. Again, this is the motion to reconsider, the motion to table. So a majority vote, the motion to reconsider. The next motion will be the motion to table. That will also require a second, and it is not debatable. That also requires a majority vote. Again, I'm using the chart at the end of town meeting time. Okay, and then that we'll see where we are from there. So right now, it's the motion to reconsider. All in favor of the motion to reconsider, please signify by raising your card. Motion to reconsider. Thank you. You may lower your card. Those opposed, please signify by raising your card. And the motion to reconsider, thank you. You may lower your card. The motion to reconsider carries. At this point, it's going to be a motion to table, and in abundance of caution, Madam Town Council, the Chair is going to ask for a motion to table and a second for that motion, okay, rather than resting on the original motion and second. Make sense? Okay. All right. At this point, is there someone who would like to move to table the consideration of Article 21? That will require a second, and then that is not debatable. Okay. Okay. Yes, ma'am. Can I get your name for the record, please? Would you be able to repeat it, please?
Allura Street, just the way it sounds.
Okay, and the address?
111 Hale.
Thank you. Motion has been made and duly seconded to table Article 21. All in favor of the motion to table, please signify by raising your card. Thank you. You may lower your card. Those opposed, please signify by raising your card. And thank you, and the motion to table prevails. We all set? Okay. At this point, ladies and gentlemen, having completed the warrant for this annual town meeting that rang a bell, at 9:04 p.m., the Chair declares this meeting adjourned.